Welcome to the Catchers U podcast. Today's guest, Tyler Zombro, a graduate of George Mason University. Tyler signed with the Rays in 2017 and in 2019 was named the minor league pitcher of the year for the organization. Tyler is currently still playing and has recently been invited to big league training for big league spring training. And he is currently also the director of performance of Trena Athletics in Charlotte, North Carolina. Hey Tyler, how you doing today, boss?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. No, quick side story. I was very fortunate to coach Tyler when he was in high school, when he was an all-state second baseman and a Friday night guy. So he always made sure he told me he could hit, but I'd always just kind of throw him on the bump and get a W. So it's really cool, man, to see how far you've come and all the success you've had. And I even knew, when you were in high school that you were going to be successful because, you worked hard and you came from a great family. Your dad, your grandfather, were always at the game, always talking baseball. And, it doesn't surprise me at all, the success that you've been having, in professional ball and then also in a profession of developing athletes. So, real quick, because I know a lot of people know, they know probably uh, stuff about, some of these other big training, places. But go ahead, give me a little bit about Trena Athletics and kind of what you guys are doing down there with Coach Brewster in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah, so Trena Athletics, I think we've now officially become the largest baseball training company in the world. We have over 600 athletes, including over 100 professionals. 98% of our work is done remotely. So guys all across the world. I myself train 2 Korean guys currently. And so basically our process is an intake assessment where obviously we're analyzing mobility, trying to give guys correctives, looking at throwing patterning, nutrition, lifting. So it's an all-encompassing package in one. So we're overseeing all aspects of an athlete's development. And so we do that on a pretty large scale with a team of, I believe we're up to 16, 17 staff members here.
Wow.
And then of course for in-person training, we kind of cap our in-person to 50 to 60 guys, mostly professionals being in that crew. So get to see a lot of high level stuff, a lot of data manipulation, being able to break stuff down for guys, especially at the professional level, and have kind of like an ongoing consulting relationship around that. So get exposed to lots of different players, lots of different patterns, lots of different kind of, styles and approaches to the game. So it's unique to really see that. And thankfully I'm able to see it a little bit on the position player side. I'd say maybe like, 2 to 5% is position player, but overall, you can kind of embed those things throughout.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's really cool. I mean, to be touching the game worldwide, especially now with everything that's going on, that's awesome and really efficient. So I like that. I like the approach and I think it's awesome. And I know obviously I know some of your guys that you're working with. A couple of college arms and a couple of pro guys that are working with you, and they absolutely love the program. So I think, everything I'm hearing is that you guys are absolutely killing it. Obviously your success speaks to that. So I wanted to, as a coach, I always lean on people that are smarter than me. And I try as hard as I can to always, make sure people think I'm smart, but I just really know smart people. So I wanted to talk today about catchers and what they can kind of do from an arm strengthening and arm care program. One, I don't want to say myth or whatever, but a lot of catchers are worried about sometimes trying to build arm strength because they don't want to get too long and they don't want to take away from getting the ball out, which is correct. But at the same time, I feel like there's ways that we can train our arm pattern and our throwing motions so that we're not getting longer, but we are getting stronger. So any kind of feedback that you might have on that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of interpretation around weighted balls and different plyo programs to where you're looking to increase velocity. And like you've said, you've seen a lot of my guys kind of going through the program. And I think the one thing that I really try to iterate to guys is I'm not trying to make an adaptation on you based on demands. Like if I told you to just go out and throw a 2 pound, 1 pound, 654, 2 ounce as hard as you could, you might gain some arm strength, but obviously we know that's just an adaptation to the extreme demands you're putting on yourself. So I would say the thing philosophically that I'm huge on is not necessarily the intent behind how hard we're throwing everything, but more so kind of the mechanical efficiency to make those patterns good. Ultimately, like you look out here on the floor with our guys training, it's easy to identify the pro arms because they just operate at a super smooth 90%. Mechanical efficiency is through the roof, and they can really make a sound impact with that delivery. So then when they have to add that kind of additional 10% of intent in a game, they've got it in the back pocket. But again, if you're not efficient in the patterns leading up to that, then intent really doesn't do much for you. So one thing I would say is with plyo balls, especially, it's not necessarily even the weights or how hard you're throwing them, but are you going to get into efficient patterns that then obviously will lead to better velocity?
Right. Yeah. No, it's one thing that I've done, and not from a plyo ball standpoint, but I've really gotten into having our guys when we do our dry work, or we work our transfers, just having our guys implement an arm fake to kind of build that efficient throwing pattern. Whereas, a lot of catchers will work transfers, they'll stop at power, they'll stop and they'll rep that, 100 times. And then they go to throw and there's a little bit of a hesitation or whatever. And that's sometimes where I feel like that, and just to kind of use your term, an inefficiency could occur because they get themselves of out of the rhythm that their body needs to throw at to be, athletic and efficient. um there's a couple, I saw a couple of your guys the other day, and they were doing one where and I think it's online too, I think Joe Kelly was doing this, where kind of like stepping back and then throwing a plyo ball into a wall. And you step forward, you step back, and then you throw, and it's kind of just keeps your arm athletic, I think was the goal of it. But it was really cool because you just saw that it was freedom. Like the arm was trying to be free, and the athlete doing it was trying to do everything they could to keep the arm free, without, like you said, putting in like, a mechanical application that, doesn't really work for that individual.
Yeah, so I think you get into a scenario where when guys are thinking mechanics, they're trying to force positions, which then can lead to a disruption of timing and a variety of things. So as it pertains to catchers, I think the biggest thing you're going to see is guys think, short arm, they want to get penned up. And like you're saying, oftentimes there's a halt of arm action momentum where they're drawing back, they get stuck. So we know one of the most important things in the delivery, and I've got to really tilt my camera for this, but is the flip up stage. So like as we break, as we abduct, the timing at which the arm flips up into space is super, super important. And kind of like what you're saying with catchers specifically, and we have 3 pro guys here who I see it with, they've been so habitual with just like, they're kind of stop, and they're not getting any sort of that flip up. Now it doesn't have to be long, but some sort of momentum to get there is going to be vital. So finding different ways to compress time and allow them to kind of just flow into that space is going to be super important. So like you're saying, not trying to force like I got to be here to here, but to actually feel momentum to create space.
Yeah, no, I mean, and just that motion right there. So that would be, and just kind of watching you do that, that would be something with a plyo ball or something that would be definitely something for catchers to maybe train, be part of their little routine that they can do where, they're attacking this area so that they can work on being able to get there, freely, and maybe create some strength, or, that sounds, I mean, that right there is something that I don't think a lot of catchers think about, because I think a lot of catchers are thinking more here and then go versus the actual understanding of I get here and now I'm going to have to get my shoulder and my hand's going to have to raise to get that ball out. So yeah, no, the whole hand to the ear kind of thing I think is a great term, but I think like a lot of baseball terms, it's how it's understood and then also how people try to do that by getting the ball to the ear. I feel like that's where a lot of kids go wrong is, how they're trying to do it is not as optimal as what the teaching cue is trying to lead them to be.
Right. Yeah, and the other thing is with catchers is obviously if a secondary pitch is thrown in the dirt and you got to try to throw a guy out, there's a variety of different arm action and angles that you're going to have to get into. So feeling like you're so mechanical and robotic to just get point A to point B, but to actually understand kind of these spaces you have to flow between will just create some more variability so they can be adaptive. And maybe I don't have time, so maybe that momentum swing's not as big, maybe it's a little shorter, maybe I have to drop my posture a little bit. So I think the variety there would definitely be something that's good for catchers. And I know you touched on this a little bit. Catchers are in the bullpen with pitchers when they're doing their thing. Definitely a perfect time for them to get some work in as well. I think catchers throwing is so much dictated by what the pitcher is going to do. And
Correct.
it's like, well, if you have your staples to kind of get your arm action principles hammered in and get you where you need to be, obviously that'll be beneficial.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think, and it's crazy is, I was able to work with with a former pro last year. We ran our businesses next to each other. Now he's the pitching coach at George Mason, and we did a lot of arm care. And I saw even a huge improvement on receiving because we were doing a lot of shoulder stability, shoulder strengthening, and you started seeing um, increased range of motion from my catchers. And then you started seeing them being able to receive a lot better. And then on top of that, getting them to kind of train the body, right? Where now they're able to throw more athletic. And I think that there's a, there's this common concept. And I think you're doing a great job with pitching, breaking it down because, there's so many people that want to teach one way and and they don't like when something's a little different, or they don't want to pitch to their skill set. I remember you and I used to joke about you used to throw a curveball and then you realized your arm slot, and then you're like, why would I ever try to do that? That's just too much work. And you went to your slider, and then it became a really nasty pitch for you. And um and the same concepts like why shortstops are moving behind the plate. And I feel like the ability to throw from different arm slots, the ability to throw off schedule, and be athletic and be competitive. And while you're doing that, gives those guys a huge advantage. So that's why I'm always trying to get shortstops or big time athletes to come behind the plate and kind of knock that rumor of, hey, we don't want athletes behind the plate, or we're just trying to get somebody that's big and strong back there. Um, the guy from San Diego who just just started catching. He was their catcher this past season. He was phenomenal. Like being able to throw from different arm slots, being able to adapt and be athletic, I think is something for me is really fun to watch. And I also think for pitchers, the days of throwing to somebody who's really really strong and maybe not as mobile or can't tunnel your pitches as much. I don't think that's as attractive anymore as these guys that are able to kind of get behind balls and move them back to the zone and if you do a decent enough job getting rid of the ball with a man on, they're going to get you that out. They're going to throw somebody out for you.
Yeah, I think when we're talking about the athletic catcher, I mean, obviously JT Realmuto signing a 5 for 115 speaks dividends to
Yeah,
how
pretty
much the
good.
athletic catcher is valued.
Yeah, pretty good.
And I think about my time in pro ball and kind of looking at the catchers I've been able to throw to. Like when you ask me about, like, we have Ronaldo Hernandez, who's a top prospect and probably grades out at a 60 plus arm. And when I think about the throws that he's made, not many of them are like a set position where the guy was a 1-4 to the plate, the ball was a strike, and it was just, like that routine fundamental throw him out, clean transfer, it was probably a right-handed hitter, clear throwing lane. I think to it's a 1-2 count and you try to back foot a breaking ball, the guy blocks it, tries to run, you throw from behind the left-handed hitter or something. Like those athletic plays really stick out to me. And I think, like you're talking about, once you are able to really be efficient in that fundamental pattern, but then also creating variability in some of that athleticism is crucial, because obviously you being a catching guy, like you probably know it's easy to teach a guy direct transfer and then how that's going to feed the arm path, and we can do that all day. But we know reality is not every pitch is going to be right
Right.
there. And being able to block, get up, throw from a different arm angle. I mean, even drop third strikes, stuff of that nature happens way more frequently than what we think.
Yeah, no. And like I said, I always try to stress, we got to be in a position so we can athletically adjust and we can compete, and I think that's a huge thing for us is, the drills that we do are to get us in a good position, but we got to athletically be able to compete and, and kind of, be able to help our team win with that. So Tyler, I know you're a busy man. Let's, if you can give me 3 things you think catchers should do to help with arm care, band work, maybe, a couple quick plyo drills that you think would work. And we'll call it a day, brother. This has been awesome so far.
Yeah, I would say, as far as just like simple, arm care routine, honestly, just having some form of a process, both pre and post game. So I know when you look in a training environment, it's not infrequent for guys to be making 300 throws in a day. When you look at, plyo drills are attacking long toss if they have a pen that day, if they have a short box command work, whatever it might be. When you're making that number of throws, you really have to make sure, obviously, you're promoting shoulder stability throughout. And I think catchers definitely get overlooked in that capacity, and we take it for granted. They might be flipping the ball at 50% back to the catcher, but it's a throw.
Right.
So these guys are making more throws than anybody else on the diamond, day in and day out. And especially as you get to the collegiate and professional level, it's going to take a toll on you if you're not taking care of yourself. So, um, you know, rebounders, reverse throws, different rotator cuff manipulation stuff. Obviously, any band work, like all that stuff will be really good for catchers and should definitely implement pre and post. As far as plyos go, I would say the big thing for me, we have a ton of videos, and I can send you a couple after this podcast as well. But looking at how catchers get into that space, right? Like we kind of touched on, as they get stuck and they kind of prohibit arm action momentum from getting up in this space. And I think the other thing you'll see with catchers is they tend to have a low shoulder and throw uphill. And that's when you see balls air-mailed into center field or overthrowing the first baseman on a drop third strike. So actually being able to look at shoulder line to see, is the arm working downhill or is the arm pushing uphill? So being able to distinguish that is going to be really important. And there are a few drills that I can send you. We have one that's called a lasso, to make sure that the guy's actually unwinding the arm downhill instead of pushing up, which will promote a bunch of vertical misses.
No, that's awesome. And like I said, this is definitely a part of the catching game that I think we take for granted. I think a lot of times, like you said, we might have to make this throw once or twice a game, but when we have to make it, it's really, really important. And being ready for that moment and making sure that we're training our bodies to be right in that setting, or is the most important thing that we can. But man, this stuff's been awesome, dude. Congratulations again on the big league camp invite, all the success you guys are having at Tread. And, if you don't mind, Tyler, if you could say, where people can find Tread and find you specifically online or social media, that'd be great.
Yeah, so it's Tread Athletics on all platforms. Pretty prominent on Twitter and Instagram, so it'd be easy to find. Treadathletics.com is the website. And as far as I go, just look up Zombro. It's easy enough to find, not many out there.
Yeah, not too many, right? Not too many. Well, Tyler, it's been a blast, man. Again, I really appreciate you coming on, dropping some knowledge for us. Good luck in spring training, and I hope much continued success to you guys in the Rays and then also in Tread Athletics. This has been the Catches You podcast. This is Jack Farrick signing off, and hope you guys have a great day.